So, in terms of, it's been 5 days since this tiger was seen. We just heard from the Houston Police Department just a little bit earlier that they think that this tiger is probably being traded somewhere in the Houston area from homes to homes. What does this mean for the tiger's condition at this point, do you think?
Well, I think it doesn't bode well for the tiger. One, that he's being cared for by people who are so clearly reckless in how they are treating the cat and their neighbors. And I think it's really dangerous for the neighbors because these are people who are showing that they're making very bad judgments with a very dangerous animal.
And as far as we know, it looks, when we had spoken to you last, the tiger is probably somewhere around 6 months, still very young, and probably spent the majority of its life in probably in the care of someone who probably doesn't deserve to have it. What does it take to keep a tiger healthy and happy?
Well, to keep a tiger happy, you would not have it in a cage because these are animals that are designed to roam hundreds of square miles. And there's just no cage that anybody could offer that would be sufficient, including any here at the sanctuary. But as far as how to maintain an animal who's been born in captivity and can't be released, it costs us over $10,000 a year per tiger just for the food and vet care, not any of the overhead of the sanctuary. And a proper enclosure to house that cat that would be at least 1,800 square feet of really reinforced steel caging. You're talking about $10,000, $15,000 for a cage like that. My guess is this cat has always been kept in the house and it's now reaching that age where it can bust through a window very easily or bust right through a door. And so now they're faced with having to keep it on the run because of them not wanting to let law enforcement know that they have it. And that's putting everybody in danger.
Yeah, I think that's sort of the question that all the area residents have. It's like, okay, first off, like, where is this tiger? And if it's not being kept at a sanctuary or someplace that can safely care for it, what kind of risk are neighbors at in terms of, this tiger could, as you mentioned, bust through a window, or if it's not kept safely, a rough situation for residents, wouldn't you say?
It's a horrible situation. And a friend of mine was in law enforcement and he was telling me about some people who had a cougar, which is like much smaller than a tiger, and kept it in the house. And that cat chewed through the door to escape. So a tiger is going to make waste of that door a lot faster than a cougar can.
And the kind of stress that a tiger that's under a year old must be feeling, if it is in fact being traded from person to person, house to house, what does that do for the tiger's condition?
This cat has probably been handled from the day that it was born, used as a pay to play prop. That's how almost all of the big cats in the United States start out. And as a result of that, it's probably accustomed to an awful lot of rough handling, which would make the cat very anxious about anybody that it doesn't know handling the cat. And you could see how when the cat was had escaped, even this person that claims it's not his tiger and came out and grabbed the cat and dragged him back in, you could see that the cat was very unsure of what was going on. And so I think it just adds to the stress for this poor animal. And I can't even imagine living in Houston right now, wondering, should I let my kids go out to the bus stop or is there going to be a tiger wandering around?
Right, and the suspect in this case, he was at a bond hearing earlier, and he keeps saying that that's not his tiger. Like, he's kind of trying to distance himself, but based on that video, you think otherwise, correct?
I do. And obviously, if it's not his tiger, he knows where that tiger is, I believe, and he needs to come forward with that. I can't believe that these people are being allowed to hide it from the authorities and not being forced to give up the location of such a dangerous animal.
How hard is it to hide a tiger? You'd think that, I think residents, just watching this, going, man, like, it's got to be not that hard to find, but it's proving to be.
The only reason that they are successfully hiding this tiger is because of the fact that people are enabling that. And that's why we put out the $5,000 reward, because we hope that somebody will think that it's a little bit better to have 5 grand in their pocket than to cover for somebody that's going to get caught at some point in the time.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question. Talk about the reward a little bit more, and why it's something that you feel that you wanted to offer.
I think the kind of people who have tigers as pets or who are enabling this sort of thing are people that just are not thinking. And I think money is going to mean more to them than any of their friendships or anything else, and that will cause them to give up the tiger to an accredited sanctuary. And the second part of our caveat for this reward money is that we want them to actually testify against whoever bred this cat, who sold the cat the first time, who all is involved in this cat being transported all over the place in ways that have got to be so dangerous. Imagine if this guy gets in a car accident and that cat's set free during the middle of some huge tragedy like that. You've got blood all over the place. You've got a tiger in the middle of it. This is just crazy.
Yeah. For the majority of us don't really know much about the sort of like the dark trading of tigers, would $5,000 be enough to incentivize someone who is kind of wheeling and dealing on, one of these people that are trading the tigers? Is that going to be enough to have them, hand over that tiger?
I think so, because tigers are only valuable to people for the first 16 weeks of their life. That's when they can pimp them out for pay to play sessions where people pay to pet a cub. After they're 16 weeks old, they can take a finger off a child, and that's when they end up being dumped, usually just even given away, just to get them off the records, so that they don't have to account for the cat and they don't have to feed the cat. So my guess is that the people involved in this, $5,000 would be a meaningful amount.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So what would a baby cub, like a cub, go for if they were what would someone pay for that?
What we learned at the trial for Joe Schreibvogel during the murder for hire trial, where he was convicted on selling so many of these big cats across state lines, he would sell the cubs when they were first born for anywhere from $1,000 for a golden cub, like India is, to $5,000 for a white tiger. And like I said, it's only in the first few weeks of that cat's life that it has any value at all. Once it reaches about 4 or 5 years old, which is going to take $10,000 per year to get it there, then they could part that cat out for the illegal trade in their skins, their bones, their teeth, their claws. And at that point, the cat could be worth $60,000.
Do you think that the people that are trading India, that's happening probably right now as we're speaking, have really no clue what it takes to care for that tiger?
The people who are involved with India right now have shown that they have no understanding of the power of this tiger, how it could kill somebody with a single bite to the back of the neck or to the throat, and how dangerous it is to have such a huge, powerful animal being kept in a house or in a car.
And as we mentioned, I'm almost done. But going back to sort of the stress of, we just heard from HPD that it's likely that it's still in the Houston area and it's just been traded over the past 5 days. What that is doing to the tiger's overall health and psyche.
When cats come to Big Cat Rescue, we've seen them take anywhere from a few days to a few years to overcome the psychological stress that they've been put through. And most of them did not go through what this cat is going through, where it's being bounced all around different places that are unfamiliar, having a bunch of people who clearly don't know anything about how to take care of a tiger in charge of them.
Do you think that the only way to really even to find this tiger is for someone to come forward with the tiger? Otherwise, in terms of a search, it's not like we're searching for a missing, person who is presumably dead. It's a little different in terms of how we're going to try to find this.
With almost all wildlife crimes, the only way law enforcement ever catches anyone is through a tip.
Okay. And HPD says they've been receiving hundreds of tips, a lot of them sightings that they have investigated it that have not obviously panned out. So advice to residents that are at home. Everyone is watching this and curious about where this tiger is. Advice to, just our viewers that are watching that want to try to help the best they can.
A lot of people don't know what a tiger sounds like, and their voice can carry for 5 miles. And it sounds like a cow mooing. So if you live in a residential neighborhood and you think you hear a cow, it might be the tiger.
Will you say that part again for me? That's an interesting thing.
A lot of people don't know what a tiger sounds like. So if you're living in a residential area and you hear what sounds like a cow mooing really loudly, that's what tigers sound like. And so that might be the clue necessary, because that can carry for 5 miles. And people often tell me when they come here to the sanctuary, they're like, that's what that sound is. I had no idea, because they live nearby.
Yeah. And my last question is, do you have any plans on coming here to Houston to help with this search?
I don't think there's any point in me coming there to search unless the cat was actually spotted running loose. In a case like that, we would come. But as far as like, I can't go door to door and expect anybody to tell me the truth if they had a tiger inside.
Right, right. And then real quick, it's a $5,000 reward. And then you had mentioned sort of two caveats, right?
So for the $5,000 reward, what I would require of them is that they turn the cat over to an accredited sanctuary, somebody that is accredited by the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries, so this cat never ends up in peril again. And the second part would be that they work with authorities to convict whoever bred this tiger, who sold this tiger, who's been trading this tiger. My best bet is that this cat was actually born in Oklahoma or South Carolina at one of the big tiger mill breeding facilities for cub petting, and it has probably been traded across state lines illegally. So I think that getting somebody to work with law enforcement to close those gaps on what's happening there, that's what's going to happen for me to hand over $5,000, because we don't want to be in a position of somebody's down decided, well, having this tiger isn't so much fun, we'll just take the 5,000 and turn it over. They've got to help us put an end to this.
Right. Carole, I appreciate your time. It's nice to meet you, and we certainly appreciate your insight as we continue to try to find India.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.